Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got the Diadora B.Icon, and honestly, I've had some pretty high hopes for this shoe since I learned of them developing it. It's definitely not the Blue Shield 5, it's definitely not the Blue Shield Fly or Torneo. It's definitely more of a performance, kind of more streamlined shoe, built more for more speed. So I am really excited to see kind of what Diadora's interpretation of this kind of shoe is, and to see if they can make a real speed-focused, performance-focused flagship shoe. Let's get into it. And heads up, Diadora did send me these to check out. However, I did not promise them a review. They have no editorial control. This is not sponsored, and all opinions are still my own. I have no financial interest if you buy these versus any other shoe out there. However, if you do want to grab a pair of these, I do have a link in the description where they are still in stock. Now, starting off in the uppers, the one thing that really caught my eye even after I played them or anything else was when I was trying to cut them open. This was really the first upper that really gave me a really hard time with the blade. I always use a fresh blade cutting these shoes open, and the B.Icon actually gave me a lot of resistance trying to cut through it. So the upper material, it kind of looks like a honeycomb woven mesh layer. It's really not. There's not a ton of breathability in there because it is 2 layers and it's almost 3 layers in some parts. So even though this honeycombing looks like it's meant for more breathability, it's actually meant for more durability and more protection and kind of side-to-side stability. Now, the next thing about the uppers that I think catches everybody's eye at first is this external TPU stabilizer. Now, when I first saw this online, I thought it might be a little bit of a gimmick. However, this thing is so efficient at controlling your foot laterally in the shoe and giving the shoe a ton of lateral control and stability. Number one, because it's really placed really well. It's placed right where you would sprain the ankle most commonly. And number two, it's outside of the shoe. So it's not like some shoes that have a lot of stabilizers in the ankle that also make the shoe really stiff and uncomfortable. So it's exactly where you want it to be, but it doesn't really have too big of a footprint to make the shoe clunky. And if you just notice on the heel counter, it is really high, like on the GP Turbo. Definitely not as stiff as the Blue Shield 5 because it doesn't have that plastic outrigger on here. However, with the lateral stabilizer and the really high heel counter, your heel and ankle really do stay pretty locked into this shoe, much more than I thought it would when I first took them out of the box. Now, the other thing about the uppers that isn't as eye-catching but equally as important is how the lace eyelets are stacked here in the ankle. You're getting 2 sets of parallel lace eyelets that are coming all the way over the shoe. They're really locking your heel, midfoot, and ankle in. Now, I know this TPU stabilizer is part of that on the outside. However, on the inside of the shoe, this is going to give your arch a lot more stability and just give the laces a lot more of a mechanical advantage over your foot. So when you lace these down, you really feel locked into the shoe and you're getting a lot more stability versus some other minimalist shoes. It's just a really simple little design tweak. However, this is something that can make a more minimalist shoe, a little more streamlined shoe, feel like a much more supportive shoe. And on the upper durability test with the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, just about a scuff here on the durability guard that goes around the toe box. But the interesting thing is when I was doing the durability test on the woven layer, I actually found out this isn't just a fabric woven layer. This is actually woven TPU. So really not even a scuff on that, just an incredibly durable upper on these, and incredibly durable, number one, to abrasion, number two, to side movement, so to force, and number three, to sharp objects. Now, the one thing I wish Diadora would have done was put the outsole tread here in contact with the uppers, because you do have some midsole foam exposed here. If you are a toe dragger or slider, which these are great for, you are going to start to burn through a little bit of midsole foam here, and potentially some quicker wear here in the midsole area. If you're not a slider, then I really wouldn't worry about it. Now, the midsole teardown, it might not look like there's much going on here. However, this is actually a bit of a different build than a lot of other shoes. Now, number one, the heel height as well as the forefoot height is actually a little bit higher in this shoe versus a lot of other shoes in its class. Now, they still feel really low to the ground, and the reason for that is, number one, because they have these break points here in the midsole that allow you to bend in the shoe a little bit better, a little more ergonomically. And number two, the foam is just a little bit softer in the shoe. How do they get away with that when the outsole shank here, yeah, is a little bit more flexible? However, it's much more broad, so you get a lot more surface area on this shank. So number one, it's a little bit lighter of a shank than some others, a little bit more low profile, but also because it's entirely outsole based, except for this little bit that goes here in the middle, you can fit a lot more foam in the shoe. When you can fit more foam in the shoe, you can make it a little bit softer, a little more bouncy, which is gonna make you feel the ground better versus having something stiff under your foot. So even though it might not look like much going on here in the midsole, actually is quite a bit of engineering to make this shoe still feel very low to the ground, but also give you a lot more padding and cushion, especially in the forefoot versus a shoe like the Ubersonic 4 or the Vapor Pro. And putting this midsole engineering to work on the Serve jump height test, got 30.5 centimeters on average, which is actually pretty decent. It's better than I thought I would get. However, this is on a brand new pair of these. This foam is pretty soft. So just kind of like Nike React foam, it is going to give you a little bit more spring when it is new. However, just get ready for that jump height performance and that violent push-off force to kind of diminish as the shoe gets a little bit older.
So even though I was able to get back for the overhead easy enough, getting up for it in these just isn't as good as something like, say, the GP Turbo, which is an absolute rocket ship off the ground.
Now getting into the outsole tread, this is a perpendicular herringbone combination. You got north to south here in the heel on the inside, and then east to west here on the outside, and then vice versa here in the forefoot. However, the most important thing of the outsole tread here is the break point here underneath the ball of the foot. And as you can see here, it gets really narrow here under your big toe joint, and then it gets really wide here on the outside of your foot. And that's because when you're pushing off laterally, you need the shoe to bend more on the outside versus on the inside where you need it to stay pretty stable. This also gives the shoe so much more flexibility when you're moving. However, it still keeps the shoe ultra stable when you're pivoting under your big toe joint when it gets really narrow here under that area. And I think where the engineering of the outsole really kind of shines through is on the suicide test. I came in at 14.37 seconds, which is a new record for me. And it's just because I was just able to pivot and go so hard around corners. And the shoe is just really easy to kind of get up to speed in. Now, like I said, this shoe is not a diving board. It's not a rocket ship. It doesn't have that really violent push-off force like something like the Lotto Mirage or the GP Turbo. However, the shoe is so easy to get up to speed. It cuts through the air so well, it pivots, and it grips so well on the court. It's just so easy to move around that it more than makes up for that just with the overall engineering and kind of ergonomics of the shoe. And if you look at the outsole durability test with the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, really not even a millimeter of damage. The Durometer reading was about 14.2. So really along the lines of a harder Adidas level rubber as well. So these are going to be pretty darn durable, especially for sliding on hard courts. Like I said, just watch out for that midsole foam right there. I think that's the only place on this shoe that's even a little bit vulnerable to hard court sliding. Now the fit of the B.Icon I think is the biggest pitfall to it. You really want to try to go true to size on these, even up to a 2E, even if it does require a little bit more break-in. I actually didn't have any break-in on these on my left or right foot. My left is actually a little wider than my right, and I thought I was going to have a little bit of cramping in them, and I didn't. However, because the shoe just runs a hair long, and because of the break point here in the outsole, you really want to try to give these more of a one-to-one fit, because that's when they'll produce the most results for you. That's when they'll perform the best for you.
Now, the one thing I noticed about the fit of the B.Icon is that it has the same break-in profile of the Blue Shield Fly. Kind of has that annoying little snapping around your big toe for about 20-30 minutes until that forefoot breaks in.
But the most interesting part about the fit is the fact that they will fit a flat, neutral, or high arch. These have a ton of arch support in them because of how broad the shank is. Now, I would say as the shoe gets older, you probably just want to throw in a little bit of an orthotic in there. Something like Power Step or Move would be just fine. You don't need anything crazy. However, for a more streamlined and more performance shoe, it definitely has the most arch support and lateral support of any of the shoes in that category. Something really surprising or really nice to see out of these shoes.
Yeah, I think just the best part of this shoe is just how much confidence I have when pivoting and really planting hard on the two extremes of the court. I just feel so confident putting my foot down, knowing I'm going to stay balanced in the shoe because of how low to the ground I feel in them, how much lateral stability they have in them, and my ability to push off after that shot. It's just all one really great package in this shoe.
And you know, at the risk of sounding like a Diadora fanboy for the second year in a row, I gotta say, these are huge winners. And you know, when a company sends me shoes, I always try to find as much wrong with them as I can because I just don't want to sound like a shill for the company. And honestly, I really couldn't find much I didn't like about these besides the midsole foam right here. These are just engineered in a way that is going to give you the best of a lot of other shoes on the market all in one shoe. I do think that if you are a heavier player down the line, you're going to bottom that foam out, so I probably would put just a thinner orthotic in there. I will leave a link in the description below to one that I think would really increase the longevity of this shoe. However, in terms of a performance shoe, a speed-focused shoe, something for match day, I'm not sure it gets much better than this at this point. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts. Are you looking to pick up a pair of these, or are you looking to go somewhere else, kind of something on the different end of the spectrum? Let me know in the comments down below. And as I'm sure you've noticed, it has been kind of a slow start to the year with new shoe releases. You know, the supply chains are still kind of having a little bit of trouble getting the new releases out. However, if you want to see what new shoes there are out there for this year, make sure you click in this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you in the next video.